in another dimension, I got my purple beard on. Yo,
That's
that
fair.
fucking shit looks so beautiful. Take some pictures of that and get some with the
Yo, it really does look beautiful for real, real.
yeah. Now all the video I've gotten has been spectacular.
Awesome. I see that thumbs up. I think that means we're good to go. I think we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a special episode of the Bridge the Gap series where we talk to the really interesting people and go through their lives and whatnot. And today, our guest is none other than Mr. Liddy Bro Flacco, the guy that is the co host of the show. That's right.
Bro.
And before we do anything else, why don't you tell them where you are?
I am in Puerto Rico on vacation.
And look at that. Look at that beautiful scenery
Let's
we
take
have going
everybody.
on.
Let's take everybody for a little bit of a scenery.
Yeah, look at that. Look, we're all like at home and stuff. Well, I'm at home. You might not be at home. I'm speaking on behalf of you. And look at this gorgeousness. So this is the vibes that we have in
It's the
terms of
vibes.
where we're
These are
at
the
today.
vibes. These are the
So
vibes. I
yeah.
mean, honestly, they're not the vibes of what I planned on talking about, but yeah, these are the vibes. It'll
So
all make
yeah,
sense in a few more months.
fair enough. I appreciate that. So yeah, I'm not even sure how to start this because our whole intro involves you telling
Yeah,
your
our
story
whole intro is
here.
like, yeah,
It's
like I'm
like
gonna
I
tell
don't
a
know how.
story to me about how great you are. Listen,
Yeah.
Flacco, let me tell you, let me tell you about, what happened. So what happened was, I did this last project, volume one, with Merker Miyagi, right? Who was the engineer of the project, and he never promotes the music of the people that he like engineers from, right? And he promoted my music, and then that took the attention of one of his friends that does album reviews, Ho Ho over here, Holden, right? And and um and then I did an interview with Holden, and I realized I was like, yo, this guy's really good at what he does. I want to bring other people to him so that they could feel the vibes and get to tell their life story, because I realized after our interview that I had never talked about my life. All my interviews were about fucking hip hop and battle rap and like trash. And so, after the interview with you, I was like, well, I want the rest of my friends to feel like this. I want them to feel that satisfactory. I don't want them to, not get to have that same feeling. And so I approached you about doing a series, and now here we are. And we're like, how many months in now?
Like
We're
this
about
is like 5 months. No,
5
legit, it's
months.
five
We're getting
months.
close. We're getting close to half a year now.
Yeah, it's serious, and it's been
And
like weekly. And
even on vacation, we working, baby. You know what I mean? It goes to
and
show you
it's
how dedicated we are. We're not playing.
yeah. So in preparation for this, I was like, yo, I should probably watch that other interview that we did back in November. 4 hours and 10 minutes of it on 2 times speed. Don't get me
Whew.
wrong.
Of
And
course, I wouldn't.
I
I
was
wouldn't
like,
sit with me.
no, it was a good chat actually. I was like, that's not bad at all. So I do encourage you to go check that out. But I realized a few things. We do have our token first question. And gosh, was that question in a sad state when I asked it at that time over then. And you didn't really answer the question. You just kind of went off in your own direction.
My
And I'm
own
like,
tangent, right?
yeah, but it was like I didn't know because like at that point, I didn't really understand what was happening. What y'all don't know is he hit me up with you better make a fucking structure. Get a structure. You don't have to present, you need a structure. You need to know what you're doing with this. And I'm like, fair enough. And then you'll see how all of a sudden a little more structure and story time came through on it. So with that, I want to hear your answer to this question. So I'm gonna run
Work.
it through one more time. We're gonna do it
Yeah.
still. So
Yeah.
once upon a time, my girlfriend is washing these dishes and she's fucking playing that Black Eyed Peas song that I got a
I got
feeling.
a feeling.
Woo. And she's like dancing and she's doing her things. And it got me thinking all about like musics and vibes and stuff. Cause back in the day, I was like, in the clubs with everybody in the circles dancing to that album when it was dominating the world and everything. And all this time later, that music's just so like replayable and fun and energies where you got to be moving and whatnot. And it got me thinking a lot about just kind of how music and vibes change over time. So all that club music and everything that you're hearing today is going to be some lit ass chore music in the future for all them kids growing up and whatnot. I know that was incredible, but then we come back to the musics and vibes and all that stuff, and we think about our own musical journeys. And our own musical journeys don't actually start like when we get into music or whatnot per se. It often starts as a result of the environment around us, like when we're super young. Like in my case, you know, I can remember being like 5 years old, and my dad's got all these tapes and these great boxes and speakers and shit, and he's playing all of his Zeppelins and all that radio music, the technos and whatnot. Mom's got a really shitty disco stuff. I don't know. I feel like less enthusiastic about the disco because it just wasn't. It was just like knockoff stuff. Anyway, and then like whatever, just vibes and music. So considering we didn't really get the good answer the first time, why don't you take us
Bring it
back
back
to when
on the
you
track.
were a little Liddy bro, Flacko, Dutch, Vega, whatever we were when you were like super young, and walk us through a little Bronx experience that you were having back in those days.
Yeah. Back then I was called Reynaldito. Reynaldito. Because
Mm.
my real name is Ronaldo. My parents would call me Reynaldito. That's the thing that Latin people do. They add an ito to your name. You know what I mean? They add an ito or ita to your name. Oh, like you're Holden, it'll be Holdencito. Holdencito, Jamesito. You know what I mean? Danita, Danita, you know? So yeah, back then what was I actually think I did kind of answer, but I went deep into the fact that like it was hip hop for me. So like my parents were playing like a lot of Latin music, like what Pro said in his interview resonated with me because it's the same situation for me, right? Where like I'm growing up, my mother's Nicaraguan, my father's Puerto Rican, so like people who know those two cultures would probably think that like my mother was into like ballads and maybe like mariachi type music, and that my father was into like maybe like salsa merengue type stuff because like that's heavy on the island of Puerto Rico. But like it was actually in reverse. And my father was into like boleros, which is like Latin Spanish ballads and love ballads. And like we were talking about with Pro, it's uh it's sexy sad music, you know. um at least that's how I interpreted it, and because that's how I felt about it. And so my father listened to a lot of that and a lot of like mariachi stuff and like my like Mexican stuff, and like my mother listened to like a lot of like Puerto Rican island Caribbean like new age stuff. So she liked, you know, everything new. So she loved Mark Anthony when he first came out. There was this dude named John Cicada when I was growing up that my mother loved. Um, uh, I forget who else, but like, you know, she was into like salsa merengue. Oh, I was digging my feet into the sand. I caught a little insect on my foot. This nigga was walking around at me like, oh shit, nigga, get off my foot.
That's amazing.
um, yeah, so they were playing a lot of Latin music, but because I was growing up with an older brother who was 10 years older than me, he was kind of like indoctrinating me to everything cool, you know. So like he indoctrinated me to hip hop, he indoctrinated me to kung fu movies, he indoctrinated me to like, you know, ninja stars, and he had he had a BMX bike and a skateboard. And when my mom used to make me, you know, make him take me with him where he would go, he would make me take his skateboard. He would jump on his BMX bike. I would follow behind him by at least a block, you know, because he wouldn't like slow down for me. And so my brother like had me into like hip hop, you know, like hip hop was really like what I was really, really into, like even as little, you know, like whatever it was that was playing on the radio. But really, that's what it was. It was whatever was playing on the radio. So like you had a
Mm.
lot of like hip hop, a lot of pop, a lot of been around the world, and I can't find my baby. I don't know when, I don't know why. Shit like that, you know? Fucking Gloria, 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 the Gloria, Gloria, shit like that. That would play on the radio. And I loved all that shit. I still love all that shit, as you can tell by how enthusiastically I'll sing those songs. Um,
That's fresh.
yeah.
So I guess where we didn't really get into is more the stuff like where y'all bumping vinyls or tapes and all of that side of life
Mm-hmm.
is where we really didn't delve into. So we did answer a little bit
Facts.
on that, but then like there's just so much more to it. Like we don't know if you were a drawer. We never even asked about any of that side of your life. So, Dad, were you
If
ever
I was a
into
what?
like a guy who draws when you were young?
Oh, a drawer. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually was.
So you were
Um,
like into that when you were young, like.
yeah, like a lot of the as we've sat here and done this series with all the like people in my age group, not just the New Yorkers, right? Because like we've interviewed enough Cali friends of mine that like I relate to their stories too because we were in the same age group. So like Lush and me are like a year apart. So like yeah, I absolutely drew. Tagging was like a thing that I participated in. Heavy. My tag was Sin with a C, CIN. Um,
Mm.
I would make the C flow into the I, bring the I down into the N, hit it with a fat circle at the top. Um, but yeah, I definitely did draw, and I tagged, and my parents were playing vinyl. My parents were playing a lot of vinyl back then. Actually, I remember my household growing up. Um, like I'm old enough that like I remember I don't remember my parents playing music on it, but I remember seeing pictures of my parents' 8-track system. And it looked like
Mm.
one of those old 70s disco boombox. So it had like all those bright holographic disco sticker things, you know what I mean, on the inside and shit. And it played what are those small records called again? 45s. It played 45s, and at the bottom part of it, it had like an 8-track thing that you would put in, like an 8-track. Um, I just remember seeing that in a lot of pictures, like a lot of like, oh, you weren't born yet. Look at all these pictures of back like before you existed, and I'd be like, how dare you guys have lived a life without me?
That's hilarious. I feel like as a kid though, you do have that moment of how dare you live a life before me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're selfish as a kid. You're like, what? You have a life outside of me? You you
Mm.
you you do your own thing? No, you're my everything. Yeah, yeah, fact. So yeah, my parents, that's what they did. But like I was a tape kid. I was a tape kid, and I was born into the CD era. Like essentially before I even got into hip hop like that, like heavy, right? Where like they ask you like the typical question that I used to get asked of like, when did you fall in love with hip hop? Because every guy that like had like magazine or hip hop blog back in the days watched one too many, like watched Brown Sugar one too many times. And so like you'd always get asked that question. And so for me, it was always like, Biggie Ready to Die was when I really, really fell in love, right? But again, I was growing up in New York City around this shit. So like my babysitters who like my parents, they both worked at the time when I was like first born and really small up until like about 6 years old. My mom worked, and uh I would get left with my downstairs neighbors. Those were my babysitters, and they were very like very Puerto Rican, but like super Puerto Rican out, where like they weren't New York out. They weren't into, American stuff. But like through them, I got my first ever album. Like they gave me Salt and Pepper, Salt with a Very Necessary Pep, or whatever that album name was. And they gave me that album before I was even into hip hop like that. Like hip hop was there, it was in my everyday, and I loved it, right? But it wasn't like, oh, this matters so much to me. Like it didn't matter when we were in the car. My parents would play whether it was their music or they played like WBLS, which was like the pop radio station that would play all that like Gloria and Been Around the World type stuff, right? Like that stuff was fine by me. I loved all that stuff, like I said. So it's not like I was stressing it or like, like telling my parents, like, oh man, I wish you guys would just play hip hop. I was fine with the music that was around me at the time. So like for them to give me a fucking hip hop CD, so like a CD which was like way before people had. I don't even think Discmans were around back then when Salt and Pepper put out that album. You know, like CDs were just like I think at the cusp of like becoming a real thing. Tapes were still really important, and Walkmen were still like everybody's go-to method of listening to music, you know, on transportation and shit like that. So yeah, you know, I kind of all those things kind of.
Yeah, it's dope though. That's fresh. So I don't know if we really got into when you got into rapping, but I get the feeling because like part of it is like you've brought in and laced in so much of your story into all of these other interviews. So it's like fair enough. I have a general sense that in high school you freestyled or something and ended up battling with the folks or whatnot. But you want to like expand more on that for the people.
Yeah. Sorry, I saw Bon Bon in the motherfucking comments. I mean,
Yeah, she here. She's wonderful.
yeah, she is. Facts. Um, I mean, what was it again?
Basically,
Freestyling when I
like,
was young.
yeah, because like I feel like I get the feeling you went down that route of freestyling and battling peoples and all of that
Yeah.
good stuff. So why don't you kind of walk us a little bit through how all that got started?
Yeah. I mean, it got started. You know, the way a lot of people typically do in New York City. When Pro was saying like all the like, oh man, the typical things. I'm thinking to myself like, it's only typical to us because we grew up on it. Like you, Bonnie, you know, Jenny, Chris, you know, like it's not like you guys are like, oh yeah, atypical, you know, like growing up in the New York cities. Like, no, it's not typical,
It's
but
not
it
that
is
typical
typical
to
to
me.
us. Um, but yeah, like I used to freestyle with my friends at school. Um, really, I was doing a lot of writing stuff, right? Doing poetry, literally, because I didn't understand how to rap at first. And I didn't have an OG yet, right? Like my brother left when I was about 8 years old. Like he left my parents' house and he joined the Navy. And so like there went that like, you know, guidance of like a older sibling that's like kind of already running these same streets as me, you know,
Right.
so like that guidance was gone, and I don't even know if you guys could see me. I was wondering if was
No,
I
I
too
can see
much in
you.
the sun. I was wondering if I was too much in the sun. Um, Probably let the sun be in there. Um, yeah. So like my parents, they let my brother join the Navy. They let him join the Navy when he was 17. They signed him away. They were like, "Listen, we've had enough of you." Actually, my brother had enough of them. He had it rough. You know, being the first kid back then, like in a Latin household, he caught all the rough beatings. Um, and so I didn't have that guidance anymore, and like I didn't have any real like OGs. Like all my friends were like my age group, and I was kind of like the influencer amongst my friend groups. You know, so damn, we didn't even. We got some drink. Um, I have some champagne, but I forgot to bring ice for it.
Fair enough. It's
Can't
not
have my champagne without ice.
fair enough. You're in a hot place, especially. It's extra important compared to the norm. It's not like
Stay
you
hydrated.
can rely on the coldness of outside.
Yeah. So yeah, so I didn't have any OGs. So like when my good friend uh I got my parents, my father was a superintendent for my father was a superintendent for senior citizen housing building for a Jewish owned company called Beth Abraham Hospital in the Bronx, right? And he worked for them for like 30 something, 40 years almost. Um, uh, and so he went from like being a porter to being a superintendent of one of their buildings. And that's when we moved out of the projects into like this really nice looking building. You know, it's a senior citizen housing building, right? So it's like one of those places that senior citizens live at out of their own, you know, like it's not like it's an assisted living or something like that. It's like,
No,
this
no.
is my own
My
apartment.
My grandma lived in one of those buildings. Like they're just nicer,
Really
quiet old
nice.
people house.
They had this really nice community room in that building that was like it looked like fucking masterpiece theater, yo. All my friends swore that I was rich. Like everybody thought that my father owned the building, right? Like they couldn't understand the concept of superintendent for a building like that. And so uh I was living in those type of buildings up until like I left my parents' household when I was a teen. And somewhere in the middle of that, I met a guy who ended up becoming like a good friend of mine. He worked security in the building. And we just got cool. And he took me to his block. And that's where I met Hot Rizzo and Broadway. And these guys kind of like took me under their wing. They were all maybe like anywhere from like 4 to like 6 years older than me, you know. And I was kind of like the little homie, and they took me under their wing, and they really taught me like the A through Z's of rapping and freestyling, and like they made me freestyle until it was like a reflex, like everything that you have been doing on the Zoom with your friends with the ciphers and the freestyling shit, like everything when you were like really excited and telling me about it like initially, I just remember thinking to myself like, yo, that's literally like when I was like, this kid coming up around these guys, and like they would put on like tape, like we would have tapes of like music videos, and they just put on videotapes. And like uh we initially, the way that we came up with the name Blackout was like we were in a apartment that was the trap house, literally. um and we didn't have no lights in there because like the rent wasn't paid and the electricity wasn't on. So like we literally had no electricity. All we had was like a disc man, little fucking Kobe speakers that you could connect to the disc man instead of like headphones, and fucking candles. And like we would sit there in like the dark and really like freestyle our asses off for like hours on end. And so when we did end up having lights, right, we would have like videotapes full of like music videos or whatever was the dope music videos at the time. And the guys would put on the music videos and we'd freestyle, or they'd like tell me to freestyle. Like they'd like really like put me through like boot camp, like I was really like the soldier out the young soldier out the crew, like being made to go through boot camp. And like they would make me like, yo, freestyle to this. All right, start out just freestyling. All right, now go A through Z's. All right, now go 1 through 10s. All right, now we're gonna start throwing words at you. All right, now like just random shit. That's why like when Papoose comes out with like alphabetical slaughter, like it's very tacky to me and it's just corny because I'm like, what? We've been doing this as a freestyle tactic in the streets of New York City for years. This guy who makes a song and he thinks he's what? I've heard many of my friends freestyle A through Z's better than this song. Like, what? This guy sucks. But like I say that really just not to like shit on Papoose, but like to emphasize how much yeah, really not to shit on Papoose, because Papoose, like I got a lot of respect for him as a man. So I wouldn't shit on his music, even though I'd never have liked it. Uh
You're
Hashtag Black
hilarious.
Love. Um
Hilarious, man.
but yeah, nah, it's just one of those things where it's like that's how you learned back then, like you were asked to like really like, it's the same thing that you like there were thousands, if not tens of thousands of MCs that came through EOW doors and learned all those things on those stage live in front of people. You know what I mean? Like I just did it live in front of the homies, and they were like probably like just as objective as the dub, if not even more critical of me, because they were my bros, and like there's like certain amount of like uh what do you call that? Where you like pick on just for fun or just
Um,
cause.
I know what you're talking about. That
Yeah,
brotherly love shit where you make fun of
yeah,
each
yeah.
other and roast each other to death.
And it's even more because it's your brother. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I know what you mean. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah. Yo,
So
Bon Bon, thank you. I just saw the comment. My fault. I hadn't been looking at the
you have the best
thank you.
background,
And
being
and
the
my pink
wonderful
glasses.
glasses, which is
They're
very cool.
purple. They're purple. They're purple.
That's fresh.
Everything's everything is purple. I had so much stuff. I had a whole plastic cup. I went and found a purple plastic cup. This second one I think is purple. Yeah, the second one. But I forgot to
Dude,
bring ice with me to the beach. So like, you know what? I feel like at this point I'm just gonna, cause I am so thirsty. I'm just gonna have to suck it up and drink iceless champagne and shit.
that's amazing.
I'm gonna do it for you guys.
We
Do it for the
appreciate your
squad. Yo,
sacrifice.
this is. Oh man, my fucking phone is gonna die. I forgot. Let me see. Oh yeah, I got a charger with me. No, I don't. Oh
Oh
fuck.
boy.
Oh yes, I do. Ha! It's like a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Of emotions.
What? Like, oh boy. All right,
Struggle is
so
real, Bon Bon.
we're opening the champagne. We're pop,
Pop,
pop
pop, popping
champ,
champagne.
and plugging in the phone.
Plugging in the phone because the phone is gonna die. It's at like fucking. What are we at here? 27%. Look at that shit. That's not gonna survive. That's
Bonnie
not
says
gonna
she
survive.
loves vacay Flacky.
Yo, let me tell you something. VK Flocky is quite a guy, man. I'm
He's
always like, fuck it, just pay extra. I don't care.
That's fair enough. All right. So basically you freestyled into literal candlelight, adding extra context to the struggle being real. Definitely not our reality up here. Like there's laws in Montreal where they can't cut your power. So it's just like in the winter. That's a nice pop stills. And it's like definitely different. So at what point does it like evolve into like you're actually recording those wonderful demos and such that we were listening to earlier today?
Um, Years after that, years after that. After I had already worked in the music industry, after I got a lot of like coaching, after that story from last time that I told you about Tash from the Alcoholics, telling me
Mm.
that I had to work on my flow. After all that shit is when I finally got to those demos. Um,
Was that
and
like before or after the grind time stuff?
Before the grind time stuff, before the grind time stuff, after those stories that I told you about.
Fair
Um,
enough. Okay.
and so, um, those demos, what happened was I had, been trained enough at that point, and I had started coming up with my own little songs on that demo CD. You heard my first song, and so I had worked hard enough to get cultivate what felt like the right sound, and I had came up on I had been working a job, right? This is another like running theme that you'll notice in me always. Is I'm always working. I'm never like waiting for like millions of dollars to come knocking on my door.
Mm.
I'm always working. Uh, my hotel that I'm staying at, right? It has a quote for like all the guests, and the quote is like, "Your dreams don't work unless you do."
Okay. I
That's
like
a
that.
fucking life quote, baby, and that's a fact. You know what I mean? Like when I saw that, I was like, "Tell me more." I love
What you
that
good at
because
those?
it's an absolute truth. Like my mother put that in me early. My mother was always like, "I don't care what the fuck you want to do. You could fucking go, want to be a male stripper for all I care. Just make sure that you got a regular job so that you can pay your bills. I don't care what you do in your spare time, but make sure you got a job that pays your motherfucking bills." And so I had a job I was making really good money. And I had a good tax return coming that year, and on top of that, my parents like they helped me like con the system, and you know what? I'm not even gonna say what I did. I'm not fucking listing my illegal activities to the U.S. government.
That's probably a good
Fuck
idea.
you, government. But the
Even
point is, I came up on some money, and it was like my first big amount of money to have, right? And so what I did with it was I immediately went to Fordham Road in the Bronx where you pick up mixtapes, and I went to the mixtape spot that I had seen Verse from BT 106 and Park or some shit. I think he had battled on some platform. I forget what it was. But the point was that he was pretty known, and at that time I didn't know anybody else. So like him being there made it seem like an official studio environment type of thing. So I went to them and booked some studio time, and I booked a bunch of studio time. And at that point, like my own OGs didn't even have like their stuff laid down like that. So like Broadway did because Broadway was always kind of serious. He always was kind of like the Jay-Z of the crew. But like Hot Hot and me just would go to the studio. We'd fucking I'd be like, yo, this one and that one. Hot has a song. I'm probably gonna put it on that same demo because Bandcamp lets you add later on.
right.
And Hot's first song is like a song that I made the hook for because Hot just had three dope verses that happened to talk about the Bronx a lot. So I just made a Bronx hook, and I was like, yo, you got to lay that down. But like even back then, I already had this little like executive producer bug, and like kind of like project manager bug when it comes to the music. And like I would get my friends together, whether it was Hot or my boy Rob at the time or my boy Omar. And like that was my friends Omar and Rob were like guys that were my contemporaries. They didn't have no rap aspirations. But like back then, like I've always had such a strong crew mentality that it was always like, all right, well, we all rapping. I'm rapping, we all rapping. You know what I mean? So like Rob, I was like, you are RO Beast. And Omar, you're oh shit. And these are your rap names. And you know what I mean? We're the crew. And this is what we gonna do. And this is what the song is. And y'all gotta rap about this, like I always kind of had that in me. And that has not gone nowhere all these years later.
Fair enough.
Because as I was sitting there listening to like you play those old demos, I'm like, my God, yo, I really kind of always have done that shit. Where like I'm like, yo, we're going to record over this. Let's record over this. I'm on vacation right now, and I have songs that I recorded for Volume 3 before I came on vacation. And I'm on vacation, and I'm emailing one of the tracks to Pax, who was on the 2-piece remix, because I'm like, yo, you got to be on this track for the new album on Volume 3. And you know what I mean? Like so that just it doesn't go nowhere. Like I always have that in. Like I'll try to like steer
Right. Just
everybody in the
to
general
clarify,
direction.
because there might not be people who know, Volume 3 is with regards to the Liddy Bros Volume 1, which not to say that, but yeah, it's related. Champagne and cocaine. And then what's coming out in 3 days? Volume 2, which is cognac and codeine. I don't remember if I
Yep.
got that in the right order.
Yep. Got
Um,
it.
and so when he says Volume 3 is because there's already the Volume 3 that I've heard beats for it. It's gonna be a litty vibe. It's gonna be a really good energy. I
Yeah.
like the second project that's coming out soon. So just so that y'all know what we're talking about when he says Volume 3.
Word. Absolutely. Facts. My fault. You did the thing that I do to the guests.
That's
You
what we
did the
gotta do
thing.
though,
You did the thing. You did the thing
because
where you're like,
you're the
hey,
guest.
folks, he's talking like you guys know what he's talking about. You don't.
That's it. Well, in this case,
Yeah, no,
it's,
absolute
it's
facts.
important, especially because
Volume
it's
one
like
is where we met, right? Like we met not long after I dropped it, which I dropped it on 9/11
mm,
last year, 2020, 9/11, 2020. And we've been working together with this series, Bridge the Gap, EOW edition, for 5 months
just
now.
So yeah, but we started like around December 12th or something like that. So just over 5 months at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
it was the week after. I don't know, somewhere like that.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I feel like the
and then,
breeze is nice. I feel like I should do one of the dramatic hair downs. See if I can get a Beyonce hair situation going.
that's fucking amazing. You ended up with that was worth it. That was worth it in my opinion. I was a little more like metal. I would go with like.
That was a little more metal, right? Because it went around and shit.
All right. So while we're like here, while we're talking about the volumes, more like Willow Smith. That's fair. That is what it was like.
With my hair back and forth. Word.
Yeah.
Shout out to Willow.
So
Wild respect for the Smiths.
why don't you talk about Purple while what we just brought up on this tangent of the volumes and what you're doing to promote the volume 2?
Yeah, man. Volume one was champagne and cocaine, and the vibes was very turned up and like high energy. And the BPMs, I don't think it ever went under like 90, 100, like they were always really high, the BPMs and all the tracks. And so volume two uh, has a lot of a more mellow vibe and a lot lower BPMs. And the sound on it is I always liken I when me and Jess were recording volume two in the middle of recording volume one, because we were doing both at the same exact time, right? Um we we were recording them, and in iTunes as we recorded the songs, I would put the genres for volume one as turn the fuck up, and then the volume two songs, the genre was turn the fuck down, you know. So like it had like a very chopped and screwed, Houston, Texas, coding, chop not slop vibe, to them the songs. So leading into April, like maybe like March fucking 29th, I got the bright idea to get that like chop not slop, chop and screw kind of um element to the volume one songs, and remix a bunch of those to have that like chop sound. And like when I think of that chop sound, I always think of the color purple and like purple vibes. And so with that being, the sound, and knowing that volume two was gonna have that same sound, I was just like, yo, the entire month of April is purple. And uh we're just gonna put out all these chop not slop remixes to volume one, put together a mixtape of that, and right before volume two comes out, which has that very, that same sound.
That's fair. And then all of a sudden, everybody had purple filters on their display pictures on Facebook, and a
Yeah,
lot of solidarity and love appeared to support this campaign.
yeah,
It's really fun. I really
yeah. I
like the
appreciate
sounds
it.
of it. I think we're gonna do a little review for the second project, but as a spoiler, I like it. It's fun. It's a good
Thank
project.
you.
Well, maybe fun isn't the word you were looking for in terms of the vibe,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's fun. It's a fun project. I liked listening to
Mm-hmm.
it. Fun in the sense that I derived entertainment and pleasure from listening to the project.
Word.
Um, all right, so fresh. So you basically got a government situation that worked in your favor, and you financed a bunch of stuff that allowed you to record your demo stuffs, and you did the recordings and you picked your stuff. You and Hot Rizzo were less serious than the next dude, and that's basically where I think we're at.
Yeah, yeah. So we recorded those demos, and um I shot I didn't shoot no videos for none of that stuff, because back then you did not shoot videos for everything. Videos were not like super readily available. It was still years away from that being a thing. Um, I'm sorry, I just got distracted looking at the people in the water, and I'm just like, fuck, man. Do I want to try to take this interview to the water at some point? Maybe, guys. Stay tuned. Um,
Fair
uh,
enough.
um, Yeah, so we recorded those demos, and I just went on a campaign of just battling everywhere I went. I was going anywhere and everywhere I could that somebody would like listen to those demos, trying to get a deal. Um, I don't know. Okay, my purple tinted glasses. I was like, oh my god, the sun is turning purple. The sun is going down as purple. It's like, no, it's going down as yellow, jackass, and you just got purple shades on, so it looks purple on the screen.
All right, VK Flacky. What
Vacay
happened?
Flocky.
What happened after the demos? You're battling people.
Battling people and battling people. My homegirl, I have a homegirl named Kathy who like also was a helping hand with volume one, and she'll be a helping hand with volume three. And so she's always had a lot of like industry connections to anything and everything. Like she's the type of person that literally like you can make a movie about. Um, and so she just has connections to everything in New York City, like literally anything. Like she's literally like the fucking, I don't know how to even like. She's like concierge,
Sick.
nah, concierge, like to hotels, the fucking, but like for the whole city, for like the hood, like. And so she had a friend. We were out at a bar, and I used to do this all the time where like, we were at a bar and I'd hear somebody like freestyling, and I'd just go over like a fucking little chihuahua. I was gonna say pit bull, but I wasn't built like a pit bull, so a little chihuahua. And I would just go over, fucking tear them apart, right? Like I'd be like, "Oh, you rapping? You think you could rap, fam? Well, I'm here to destroy your good time and battle you and embarrass you." And so I did that a lot back then. And one time doing that, um, uh, her friend that worked at MTV with Fight Club was there, and he saw me destroy a dude, and he was like, "Yo, you should come down to the offices." And so I went down to the offices with my sister Sarah Connor, who's on a lot of those songs. She was on the Internet Taliban song that you played. And when I got there, they all knew her because Sarah, when we get her on the show, I was waiting for the right time to get her on the show, to coincide with like one of her events. But like Sarah's like one of my sisters that I talked about, her and Jean Grey on the first episode, and she uh she knew everybody. She just knows everybody, and so when we got there, she knew the people that worked at Fight Club, and like they were old friends, and like they immediately like they were like, "Yeah, we got you too." To me, like it was one of those like, "Oh yeah, no, yeah, you're talented too." Like we didn't know that we didn't know that Sarah Connor was your sister. Sarah Connor wasn't her name back then, but um Lyric was her name back then. And they were just like, taken aback. And so they were really trying to arrange at that point. Lady Luck had already lost to Remy Ma at Fight Club. And they were kind of like looking for the next opponent for Lady Luck. And they were kind of like trying to make the Sarah Connor Lady Luck battle happen. And excuse me. And they kept bringing me and Sarah in to do battles. And Sarah at that time had just gotten back to the dub, and she started linking up some of the dub homies too with Fight Club Connect. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's where KM's Ill is here. He might be able to confirm or deny that. But it might have been through his own, because that's how like wide the net was back then, right? But like she definitely did also bring some of the homies from the dub up there. And it was just this whole like, movement that was happening at the time with battle rap. And then next thing you know, she's helping the homie New York City hip hop legend Pumpkinhead PH take over Grind Time New York. And around that time is when like my demos were already old, And what up, reality, peace and blessings. That's when we, my demos were already getting a little old, and I had new songs coming out, and I had my first actual music videos and shit. And I was solo because like it was hard to get the guys to all, like Hot had gotten married and became a dad, and so like I felt like I couldn't stop, you know, so I kept on going. But I'm a group guy, man. At my heart and at my core, like I love. There's nothing like success is cool, but like not if I don't get to enjoy it with like the homies, you know. So like I'm always like that's why when I got to know like Vice better and get to know about Vice better and like find out that like he like a lot of these things that I'm doing, like Vice did that on a bigger level for a bigger base of people for the whole entire city, and like I can empathize with like the energy and the vibes of what Vice would do. And so but like I've always kind of done that too, for my circle of friends and shit. And so like that's why you have things like La Mesa and La Squad, and just it's always like me trying to get like the team involved and get like other people involved.
All right, so that was a big answer, which is
It
fine. That's
was.
what we do here. And then,
Yeah,
as I
man.
understand it, you work on the first next projects with your first music videos. So, what project is that for? Why did you decide this is the time to go into music video land?
Well, I mean, at the time it was just, we finally got like YouTube and the ability to shoot. I had like a little blogging camera, which was like 320p, like if that, like probably like 80p. It was just this like handheld thing that it's so funny that now that I look at it, it's like the DJI selfie thing. Like it's literally that, except it was just a little bit thicker. But it literally was the same type of method, like a flip camera that flip swivels, and you would swivel it close, so like the camera part would head into the like stick part. Um, and we shot music videos on that because it was just that era of like YouTube existed and you could shoot your own music videos, and we were still, adamantly like trying to get ourselves out there to see if we couldn't get a deal. Like that was still the ideology, was like, oh, we got to get a deal, we got to get a deal,
So
instead of
at
like
this,
independent.
so you're basically looking for a deal. At this time, you're also participating with Grind Time, or
Yeah.
is that
Yep. It's just starting up to be with Grind Time. Yep.
so? How did you get involved with them?
Through Sarah Connor, because she was with Pumpkinhead. And so luckily though, like luckily I'm not, like, I'm privileged, but I'm not that privileged, right? So there was no nepotism involved in how I got involved in Grind Time, which a lot of the people that I battled and a lot of the guys like in other divisions in Grind Time thought that there was like, oh, he's not that great. The only reason he's there is because he's friends with PH and them. And it's like, I'm not friends with PH like that back then. Like I had just met him as like a modern, in that era. I had met him before, but like we weren't friends all those years. And I had to do a tryout. It's just that when I tried out, PH was really thoroughly impressed with my style. He felt like that my style was like, different and nobody else. And like back then in Grind Time, that was one of like the most important things, was to have like an original style and to like have like diversity in styles, so that it wasn't like you had a bunch of the same type of battle rappers over and over and over again, you know? And so I feel like I got a hair in my mouth. Sorry.
Love the stream of
Goddamn hair.
consciousness.
Goddamn hair. And so he really just liked what I, came to the table with. And he gave me an opportunity because he believed in me. And it was like, that's like the greatness of PH, where today we're going to be memorializing Vice's legacy even more. after this interview on the EO Zoom stream, right? And I think that it's great to like keep on like memorializing all these guys who like, you know, PH is gone now, but like these are men that like if it weren't for them um being how giving that they are with their selves as like humans, a lot of us wouldn't have had the opportunities that we had. And so PH just believed in me. And like at that time in my life, to have like somebody outside of my circle of friends believe in me and like give me opportunities to shine, like, bro, I can't even fucking tell you like the level that that shit is. That's why like I strive to be that way myself, because like, you know, that's the shit that I really respect the most out of like life and those people. So
It's also like
PH, yeah, sorry.
it's also just like mad rewarding to kind of perpetuate that circle of giving and to, as you
Mm-hmm.
said earlier, it's like, do you really want to get rich alone? Be by yourself in a room? Be like
Trash.
that like stereotype off The Simpsons, the guy staring at the tickers, being, you know, like, nah, it's like you don't really want that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you want to be with the peoples and to have that team. And part of how that ends up happening in every successful situation is there are these cornerstone people that just dedicate themselves fully to
Yeah,
creating this, or maybe just to making sure that everyone stays on the right course, even if
making
it's
sure that
just to
people
play
have
that.
opportunities because they understand. I
Mhm.
think that's what it is. I think that it is. I think that as artists, right? What I appreciate about them is that they all understood the dogged uh the dogged persistence of art, and how when you're a real artist it won't leave you alone and it haunts you, and the desire to have other people um experience, enjoy your art is like this like just constant thing that just like nags at you, and not having the ability to maybe have that is what, you know, helps these people want to give that opportunity to others, because they saw how much trouble they had to go through to get that recognition for thing, and they want to give a platform to others so that maybe their journey is a little bit easier than their journey before them was, you know.
Which is kind of, I think that's one of the things I like about you in general is that if you ever follow Mr. Flacko on Facebook, it's quite the experience. Um, one of the consistent themes you'll see is like when people complain in certain directions is what you want to have to suffer like you did back in the day. Da da da. Nah, we should all be wanting to see a better future. You know, it's like that tone of
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and I
it's
feel
always
like
that tone.
that's kind of what you're expressing here in a lot of ways. It's like sometimes people almost want to cling to the old systems because they went ahead and suffered. And you know what?
Yeah,
Maybe they did. And a lot of people did. Like a lot of people had to pay really unfair tithes to get to
yes,
like where they're at.
to
And I
where we
understand.
are as a society. Yeah,
But like it was always like if you really think about what people say about the World War II vets, it was always to create this better future, which at least instilled in me this idea that we should be trying to eliminate the barriers that made it like stupidly hard to achieve things. So I think, you know, that is like one of the most idealistic ways you can be as a person is to that. I mean, so I like what you're saying a lot. I like how you're like painting these people.
yeah. I mean, that's how I looked at them. Great, great men that like, you know, gave opportunities and platforms to a bunch of kids who didn't have. When I was doing, when once I got involved with Grind Time, um, PH appreciated my PH appreciated me because I immediately was trying to help him and Grind Time East Coast. So like not long after I got involved, I came to him with an idea for a training league where like the guys the guys that wanted to be in Grind Time East Coast would, like, you know, get their bars up, get their weight up, get some battles under their belt so that they can, you know, and we could find new talent for the league and shit like that. And I came to him with the logo, with with the logo, with a trailer, with you know, a bunch of battles I had already thought of, you know, and this idea that I was just like, because back then Sarah Connor, they would like fuck with her online because she would be in the circle of the battles, like, you know, right next to the host and the league runner and shit. And so like they'd be like, well, why is she there? What's the point? And I'm like, you don't know everything that she's doing behind the scenes. Like, there's no credits at the beginning of the videos to tell you that, you know, like, so I came up with that idea for Sarah Connor. Like, I came to PH like, yo, I see how people are talking shit about my sister online and I don't like it and I hate it. And this is a way that we can help ourselves, the league, and she can have like this purpose and this thing that everybody sees and now understands better maybe of why it is that she's around. And PH immediately was just like, nah, like he had another plan in his head, which I didn't know at the time. But like he pretty much was like, nah, you're gonna run that, you're gonna do that with SoulCon and Amzilla, who've been also like approaching me about trying to help. And you know, you're gonna run that. And I think that that's a good example of like how like PH was always like looking out for everybody. That's why I got put on the team, because he saw how I wasn't waiting for him to give me something to do. He saw that I went out there and I made something for myself to do to help benefit all of us, you know? And I think that that's something that like those men look for, and that's something that we all should look to do, you know? Not wait for, you know, like when you were interviewing Tizzy, I think that was like a really great interview, right? That wait, no, it wasn't Tizzy. It was that young kid from Montreal. Who was that young kid from Montreal that you interviewed that he was talking about he had never had ciphered before? He didn't even know what a cipher
17-year-old
was. Yeah,
JK.
17-year-old JK. Yeah, loved that kid. Loved his energy.
Loved his
Uh
energy too.
loved his energy. Um uh JK had, when he was being interviewed, he had somebody who just showed up and their profile name was what? JK's number one fan or something like that.
Yeah.
He had a fan page before you, before me, right? Like, because
Yeah.
his fan base is smart like that. Well, it's not that they're smarter or better than our fan bases, right? Like everybody's fan
They're
base
hipper.
does what they
You know
can.
what it
Yeah, they
was
just
probably
no. It's
too? It
just
was
they do.
probably like one of his friends showing up to troll him too. It was probably some like
Probably. I mean, it
uh,
also might have just been that this is their generation. This is what they do. So like that's
mm,
the thing that comes naturally to them, is to like,
right,
oh, my
right,
friend is
right.
doing this. If I'm gonna create a profile, let me create a profile that's like, boom, his number one fan. You know what I
Like
mean? Because
it
there's
could even be like a flex thing. Like, yo, I'm gonna be the number one fan page
fan.
first or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm gonna be your number one fan page. Now you got to come to me for your number one fan page stuff. Who knows what it is? It could be a million things. Me and my wife were playing that game the other night. We were watching people walk by and some drama was happening, and we were like, "Oh my god, you know what I just thought about? It could be." And she was like, "Oh, you know what I think it could be? It could be this." And
It's a
we just
great
sat there
game.
theorizing. Yeah, it's a great game. Love playing that game. But yeah, so he had, you know, number one fan page, you know, and it's just that. It's just about get in and fit in and do whatever you can to help the movement, you know, like if you love anything, like if there's anything that I could have anybody who sees this video walk away with, is that like um uh if you love something, talk about it as much as you can, share it with your friends as much as you can, because that's all that those people have at first, really, you know? And that's the only real way that they can find success. And so you talk about the things that you love and you don't talk about the things that you hate, because you don't want to bring more unnecessary attention to things that you hate. I could list you a litany of things that I hate and despise, people. companies, movements, all sorts of things. But no, because why would I want to bring attention to that? I'd rather talk to you about like how Tragedy Gaddafi is like this great criminally slept on rapper that like everybody should go listen to his entire catalog. In particular, his first album after being Intelligent Hoodlum, changing a name from Intelligent Hoodlum to Tragedy Gaddafi. Right now that album name escapes me. But the point is, against all odds. But the point is that like I love Tragedy Gaddafi, and I think that like you talk about the things that you love, so you could bring more attention to them because they deserve that attention. Because they wouldn't have gotten that attention from you if they weren't dope and cool, you know. So like do that in your lifetime, you know, like do as much, you know, passing of the word of the things that you love, and not talking about the things that you don't love, you know. Just don't bring more attention to the things that you don't love. It doesn't matter if it's already big and famous. You talking about it is gonna give it attention to one person in this world who might have never like paid attention to it. You know?
Yo,
So it's
big
like
facts.
you're better off just like
Yo,
giving
you
it
know how
no
many
energy.
times, you know how many times people have complained about songs or movies or whatever just for me to go consume the media and fall
Yep.
in love with it? And I'm
Yeah.
like, y'all
All the
bugging. I love
time.
this shit. And I'm like,
All
that's
the
kind of what
time.
it is. But
I'm watching. I constantly we you know plug to the network that we're on. We're on the EO Zoom network, and my our former well, not a former one of our previous guests, Dama, hosts a show with Baxter called ISO Boom, and like they'll like watch videos and like criticize artists. They got a segment called Destructive Criticism, and like you know how much I walk away from that segment, like where they're like, "Yo, this shit is trash." I'm like, I kind of want to listen to this again. Like, yo,
that's the
I'm about to
thing.
go. I'm about to go play this
That's
10
it.
times
So
this week,
everybody was
bro. I'm
like,
about to go play this 10 times this
that's
week.
kind of what happens.
Not
It's
the
like,
thing that people want me to listen to. No, not the like, not that.
for,
I'm gonna listen to this one dude that like everybody probably is like, yo, he's whack. And I'm like, I like that pop, man. That shit is knocking.
it's also like, I don't know, man. I just know that everybody was like Gucci Gang's trash and everybody made videos about
Yo, Gucci
Gucci Gang
Gang is
missing.
shit, man.
And then
Love
I'm
that
just sitting
song.
there like, Gucci Gang, Gucci Gang, Gucci. And I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
like everything about that's kind of got like a vibe to it. Now, I could appreciate how you might not want to consume this very young man's worlds. Totally fair. But I bet $100 that if you were real drunk in a club and some dancing was
I bet
happening and
you.
that came on, you'd be all
What?
right with it.
Be wilding
It's
out.
that's just kind of what it is. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I love it. I love watching people get like mad at stuff, and then I'm like, I guess it's like fair enough. And I don't even hate what they do or anything like that. I love criticism.
Yeah,
I
no,
love
oh no,
watching people's perspective.
I love watching the show. I tune
And
into the show
they
because
also are like, honestly, it's from a place of like, yo, this is what you
no,
can
they're
like
trying to help. They're
do
trying to
better.
help,
So
they need to. They a show like theirs needs to exist, right? Like I plugged it for a reason,
facts.
right?
It's a
Again,
good
like I'm
show.
talking about. You talk about the things that you love. You don't talk about the things that you hate, right? So like I'm not gonna like talk about something that I hate. I love the show and I love what they do on the show. But I'm just saying, like an example of that, of like where like sometimes talking about a thing that like you don't like ends up like giving it more light.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a case right there because like um now well not absolutely a case because they're just doing their show, you know, but like in the middle of they're doing their show, they'll talk, you know, they'll be reviewing videos that like that they won't really enjoy too much. And like I'm like, yo, I really fuck with this.
I
Like,
would love
you
to
know?
know the rate of songs that they have that reaction to in it. Because yo, I've had this happen a million times as a reviewer. I fucking hate some shit on a Tuesday and I make a video about it. And by Saturday, it's caught in my head and I like the song. And I'm watching that and I'm like to see the video and I'm like, I was talking some shit I don't agree with no more. And I wonder how often that happens where like they feel away, but that song still gets like stuck in their head. I'm gonna ask that question one day. Um, no, fair enough. The one thing I would say about complaining and negative stuff is if you can find a way to focus on actions rather than
Yeah.
people, and you can find a way to provide some solution to the problem, then I'm like mad okay with you saying whatever
Yeah.
you want on the subject. Because fair
Yeah.
enough. Sometimes it's really worth
Yeah.
shedding light on some shit, but it's got to have like an educational component. It's got to be like, there's got to be a value proposition beyond you just venting negative energy into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's like, listen, man, I'm not here to police anybody's anything, right? So like I'm not telling anybody to do anything in particular because it's a better life for them. Nah, like I'm just saying, if you love something and you love, like an artist, like just try to talk about them as much as possible, man. Because like artists, like talking like in, I mentioned it because we were talking in that vein of Vice and PH and giving platforms to people to like build. And it's probably because like as artists we've had the struggle of having to like go through a lot to try to get people to listen to our stuff, and so you kind of want to always help others along to not have that same problem. And so in that vein, like thinking about that, like I would always recommend to people to try to share the stuff of people that they love and fuck with as much as possible, just so that those people that they love can uh you know um and don't
Give a,
just try share with that. Like I always try to share things with like a grab you caption, like, oh, you motherfuckers, you can't understand how great this is. You have never seen anything this great before. It's gonna make somebody be like, what is this fool talking about? What is this fool of a man saying? I've never seen something this great. What is this thing he's talking about that's so great? Is usually the energy people will give to things like that. And so I just was saying it in general, but like do what you want to. Like I'm not here to, like, yo,
no, but
complain online,
you are allowed to.
complain wisely, complain not wisely. We're all stuck in our own moment of life journey.
So
And like what
Ismail wants to
can
hear more about the struggle to build an audience.
um I'll get into that in just 1 second. Like there's fucking, we're all stuck in the moment that we're stuck in life, right? So like you've learned what you've learned up until this point in your life, and I've learned what I've learned up until this point in my life. And I look back at the things that I didn't learn, that I didn't know, that I know now that I didn't know back then, and I'm like, fuck, look at me, unknowing of this thing that I know now, and I think that that's like kind of where we all end up in life, like at some point or another. So like I don't try to down people too much for like being at a point where I was at once myself in a state of ignorance or something like that, or in a state of like maybe not wanting to, you know, realize something or be a certain way, or like there is no exact way of anything is what I'm really trying to say. So like
No,
definitely
but
wasn't trying to imply that.
you weren't implying that anybody should live right or wrong, but we are allowed to philosophize on maybe what we believe the smarter or wiser ways to live are. It's a fair thing to do in the world because it's solutioning rather than complaining, right? You can say
Yeah, definitely.
putting this kind of
I'm all
energy
about
into the world.
solutions. I'm a big proponent of like I don't like crying over spilt milk. It does me no good at all. Like milk is spilled. I'm not gonna sit here and cry about it. I'm gonna go get a fucking mop. I'm gonna mop it up. I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna buy some more milk if that was the last bit of milk. Like solutions. I'm always focused on getting past the problem and getting towards like a solution. The like I have a saying where like I go like, oh, the glass isn't half full or half empty. I'm just happy that somebody was considerate enough to like leave some water for me to drink.
Fair enough. That is definitely a twist on that saying. So yeah, what about more on the struggle on building an audience?
I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's not easy, Like we all kind of want to have that access to millions of people, and now we kind of do, but it's like super hard to still access them. Like it's just as hard, if not more, like difficult than it used to be. Um, and we all want to access. Like I don't want. I all I would like the thing that I desire the most out of like my art and shit like that is like the desire to like have the I think I've mentioned this before. I never can remember the name of it, and I never think to look it up actually after I mention it to you. But like those rooms where like a company is behind a double, behind a double-sided mirror or one-way mirror or something like that, right? And then they're looking at like 20 or 30 people in a row who are being like asked about this product or something like that, and just to see their honest opinions about the product. Like that's all that I've ever desired, but like on a major base, like on a huge level. Like I want my shit to play on like radio so that like I could see like people's reaction. Like I want to I just want to have the same opportunity that other artists want to have, which is to like maybe have a lot of people listen and see if they're into it or not.
I really like what you said about that, just on the sense that I'm starting to realize like there's this thing where there's this scope is not the what am I trying to say? The way people like look at the world and audiences and the scope of how many people are actually out there is kind of limited. And the only way to really have any sense of how good or bad your music even would be, honestly, at any point
Yeah.
in your career, would be to have like a significant amount of people to hear it, right? Like you could have been like really good the whole time. I'm not saying you're not or whatever, but you as in anyone, like amazing. And just literally because nobody heard it, you didn't even know. So I
Yeah.
like the fact that it's almost like you just want like the business intelligence to know how to optimize your art better.
Hmm. I mean, that's all it really was ever for me. I mean, I've always looked at like I understand the industry. I worked in the music industry, so it's different. Like I understand the meeting in the middle of art and business, and I understand the business of art from the music industry standpoint. So like where most artists would like get on a label and they're like, most artists are like, oh, I don't want to sell out. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm the type of artist that I'm like, nah, I want to do that. I like it. Call it whatever you want to call it, right? Like if it's selling out because I'm doing a song with fucking a major artist at the time, like if it's a major artist that's like I enjoy their music too, why wouldn't I? Like what? That seems silly. Like why would I not work with an artist because they're successful? Oh, I shouldn't, you know, um, team up with like back then there were so many artists that did do it, like Mr. T and MC Hammer, and they got criticized. Well, not Mr. T, like MC Hammer did. Um, but it's like, yo, all that shit was really smart, and it was exactly the shit that artists are giving props for nowadays, which is like doing really smart marketing and like doing like it's like back then you only had was so many things to do that smart marketing with. So like, hammer pants were smart. Like what the fuck? Like why wouldn't you do hammer pants? Like that is smart. Like what is selling out about that? That's like you're actually just doing good business artistically. So like I understand like fucking being an artist that like actually wants to like be on a label and acquiesce the label and understand the business and understands the business of the label and selling records. And so like yeah, for me I've always kind of wanted to fucking do that, like whole fucking big audience to see what it is that they do like, what they don't like, so that we could stick with the things that they do like and throw away the things that they don't like, unless they're like something I'm really passionate about, in which case I'll still stuff it in here and there, because like you can still do that as an artist. Like you don't. There's ways to be an artist and please the label and please yourself. It's just most artists don't want to meet in the middle.
Hmm. Ismail saying to me, selling out is when you were completely against the style of music and then you start doing it for fame.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That would
Um,
that would definitely, if you're against it, yeah, if you're against the style of music and you start doing it for fame, yeah, that's absolutely selling out. Yeah, I would
yeah, I
never
would
do
go
that.
with that. I
Yeah,
would argue
absolutely.
though, every artist does have the right to change their mind about music. I used to be really against Drake,
Acts.
straight up anti Drake, and then I started reviewing Drake, and now I really like him. So now I want to flex with this different stuff. Like now I want to make dance auto tune stuff. I used to hate on it, but it's not because I want to get famous. I mean,
You
that's a
just
separate
enjoy it.
conversation. It's more like I really listen to this shit. Like I put on
Yeah,
that
yeah,
tour free song about Uzi Vert all the time because it's just such a clever use of like
yeah,
his voice, and like I just got into it as a genre. So in that case, I wouldn't call you a sellout because you're just evolving. But
yeah. Like
like in this specific
Ismail
case,
earlier when you were playing the music before the show, right? Ismail was asking how like I end up on this type of music, which was like a lot of southern beats. And it's because like, well, like, yeah, I lived in Atlanta for a year. So it's like I lived in Atlanta before I ever started recording like my demos. So like I had this strong southern influence from actually living in the South, you know? And I also got to live in Hawaii in '96. So it was just like I had these influences from like other
so you got
regions.
to, but you got to see then, like, because if you look at Atlanta today, it is like heralded as the thriving music scene everyone wishes they were. And so
Yeah,
you got to watch that as it was becoming that, right? Like you got to
yeah,
have a
yeah.
year of being that
Early.
kind of.
They only had Ludacris at the time, like besides Outkast, you know, like premiering. Like at that time, there was still no Ti, there was still no G. I mean, like they was in the hood, but they was not known like the way that they were. You know, Atlanta was just bubbling. It was really bubbling when I was there. Which was right before the towers dropped. It was super bubbling. Like it was getting really big in Atlanta, and the scene was just really incredible. And I just loved Atlanta so much. I probably would have fucked around and stayed in Atlanta longer if I didn't run into legal troubles there. Um, uh, shouts to Georgia, shouts to Atlanta. Um, but yeah, so like that's where the influence from that like type of music comes from, right? It's like, yo, that's not it's not like a New York dude who like, you know, is just like, oh, Atlanta's on the radio, so I gotta sound like Atlanta. It's like, nah, like
Mm,
this literally influenced me. Like before I even record my demos, I'm in this environment. So I'm rapping in Atlanta too, you know? So like, and I'm hearing their flows and their, you know, and it absolutely is influencing me, right? Like same way that my friends in the Bronx's flows influenced me up until that point, and Method Man's influence, you know, influenced me because I love his flow so much. You know, all these people, you know, they influence you because you know you you love it. And so like as an artist, yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel like all artists reserve the right to change their minds about, you know, some art that maybe they didn't like at some point. But like I love that shit all from the beginning, you know? I was
yeah,
into fucking southern shit before I even moved down south too. So that's what like helps me move down south. And like, you know, um
I also feel like sometimes though, like you just make connections in your head. Like I started looking at melodic trap more like I look at rock music, and I stopped looking at so much like I looked at the lens that I would put like hip hop under, and then I just stopped caring about bars and shit, and I was just into it for a different reason entirely. So it's like sometimes that just impacts it. Nah, that's cool. Um, so when did you what made you transition to Liddy Bros? Honestly, like how did you decide to go down this complete, like to me it feels like, I don't know if I asked you that before in the last one, but I'm not, now that we just had this chat, like how do you go from like, you know, big pun fucking influenced, you know, running through it, all these because you dropping honestly some seriously lyrical miracle spiritual coming through with bars on some
super
of this newer
lyrical,
work.
miracle,
And
spiritual
it's like
bars,
I
super
have to
rapidy
say,
rap.
I'm sitting there going, "That's fucking litty, bro." There's the 21-year-old me be all over this shit. So
Yeah.
how do you like ultimately get from that to more where you're at with it now?
Um. Uh. I'm trying to see if I can get some extra good lighting in here. Some. Um. Because now the sun is all the way down. Only this
Yes.
light
Fade.
is behind me. Um. I mean, it was always kind of there, right? Like when you look at it, like you said it yourself when you were playing the music, you know, like you could see like Liddy Bro shit kind of in the demo, you know, where it's like um uh fucking you hear songs that are like, yo, this is a fun song, you know? I've always been into fun music and having a good time. So it's like, you know, it's just that back then, you know, the lyrical miracle is like this is the thing. This is the thing I care about the most. And it was the thing that I cared about the most. And I did that. And, you know, I kind of satisfied myself and I had my full of it. And now the Litty Bros was like a way of like moving past that and being able to constantly have an evolving team. Like I was just looking at Litty Bros like, yo, you know, Jess and Paulie are around right now. They're down to run. But like I can keep this Litty Bros thing going. I'll name everybody like a Litty Bro, and everybody that features is a Litty Bro. And like whoever is the next people that want to do the next set of projects with me, they're Litty Bros and their faces are on the Litty Bro logo. And maybe one day it gets to the point where like I'm just like fucking executive producing the Litty Bros and like I'm not even a member like in the songs, you know. I'm just always constantly trying to look at things past myself, hoping in hopes of the fact that like in hopes that like there'll be success outside of myself with it. And so yeah, it's just uh what I felt was the natural progression. The project before Litty Bros that I did, the two projects that I did before Litty Bros were like Dutch Vega and Les Squad, and it's a double disc album. And I'm featuring all my friends on the songs on that I'm doing in the studio on first the first disc, and then the artists that are on the second disc is just all their songs on their own individually that I fuck with, that like they gave me for my project to like promote, like and then like after that is a project with me and the homie Gambit that we did in Vegas. And then it's Litty Bros. So it was like it was headed there already. Like I was back towards like this strong mentality of like, yo, you're not gonna get nowhere by yourself. Like, I mean, I could get wherever I'm gonna get by myself, but like to me, that's nowhere. That's nowhere that
Right.
I want to be. There's nowhere that I want to be by myself. Like I want to be there with my friends. I want my friends to be there with me. I don't want a big fat check all by myself. Like I want a nice check that I could split with somebody else so that we can have joy together, you know? And that's just always the mentality. So like that's why the Liddy Bros.
Nah, it's dope, and he is he's serious with this Liddy bro thing. Everybody's a Liddy bro. I'm gonna say like
Facts.
everybody, but I know that
Yeah.
I've seen Liddy bro
Hmm.
Holden show up, Liddy bro
You're right.
Donnie
No
show up.
racists allowed. No racists allowed.
I feel like there's got to be limits on it, but you got to be
Yeah,
Liddy to
yeah.
be a Liddy bro.
You gotta be Liddy to be Liddy, bro. Racists are definitely not Liddy. You know what I
And
mean?
to put it down, it's not. There's no Liddy sis. It's everybody's a Liddy bro.
Nah, no Liddy sis. Oh, everybody's Liddy, bro. Liddy bro Danny, big sis,
Mm.
guys. Know what I mean?
So,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, we don't have a lot of time left today. On some
nah.
the end of the week, is doing their. I
On
think it's
some also
Legacy
my
Day. Is that?
fucking look at this. Like you guys
Yeah,
got
it's
me in the
also.
dark. I'm like one of the last people on the
Nah,
beach. Like
you look
everybody's
good
done.
though. It looks kind of hauntingly nice. It's beautiful. It's like a good progression. It's kind of like the effect we had with propane.
Shouts, big shouts to Propane. The reason I even did this is cause the
Mm.
big bro did it. I knew I was going on vacation. I knew that we were gonna do this interview. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna bite the big bro. I'm gonna chihuahua bite him. All right. And he's gonna be okay with it. I told him that I was gonna do it. He didn't say no in the moment.
He did
Um,
not.
he did not say no. So I took that as a you're good to go, especially because I told him I would give him the credit and he deserves as the creator of the setting sun background. So my background is cool, but like know that that's like is bitten. It's the second. It's not the first. It's not the first.
Nah, but that just is you didn't okay, like he was down in Miami, I think, and then you brought it to Puerto Rico and kind of up to you had the whole beach layout. I'm just saying, just you just do what you do with it. I wanted to make sure though that we talked about one more little thing quick and plugged you again one more time. So y'all should follow what is it? It's Liddy Bro on Twitch because
Uh, it's
there's the
Liddy, bro.
Bronx. Bro, Tavern Time. I fucking fucked up the name. The fucking show
The
that you're doing.
Bronx Bros Liddy Tavern Time. It is a
Yeah,
mouthful, the name.
it
Shouts to
is. It's, but
Bon
it's
Bon, the creator
that's it.
of our show name.
That's it. And
Your lady friend Bonnie.
that's who it is. She loves it. No, she really she loves the fact that she like it's the Bronx Bros. And it's like, see, anyway, tell us about that real quick because you do that every Sunday and it's a fun time, especially if you're in a place with curfew like me and lets you vicariously pretend you can leave your place.
I mean, yo, thanks to you, yo. You know what I mean? Like you were so hardcore with the like, you got to get on Twitch, you got to go on Twitch, and I was like, yeah, yo, you're right, I do, and this is something that all my friends have been asking for a lot of years was for me to like do some sort of blog video shit, and like I kept on like waiting for the perfect opportunity, and it's like kids, you know, there's never gonna be a perfect opportunity, bro. You just gotta get up and fucking do the shit. So like I, you know, let the annoyance of Holden. We were having like back and forth
It was
arguments about
passion.
YouTube versus Twitch. It was passionate. We were both passionate.
Yo, but
We were
don't get me
both
wrong.
right, by the
I'm
way, about the points, separate points that we were making. You were
absolutely
making a separate point about getting on Twitch. I was making a separate point about artists need to exist video wise on YouTube because your videos
big
can't exist
facts.
on Twitch. They're gonna go away eventually. You know, like it's
Exactly.
not.
But the
But
live is just litty.
regardless, the live is litty. The live is super litty, and Twitch is where it's at. And we have a really good time with the show, yo. Like I have not wanted to stop at all. Like I feel bad that I'm on vacation and took my laptop with me. Uh but I wanted to also like use the weekend to like promote the album, and like the homies are super cool and not like trying to, you know, stop me from, you know, promoting what I'm doing and shit. So we have a good time though. Like the videos, as I've seen Hot start to take clips from the show and post them online,
Yo,
like
that's
us
so
talking
fun.
about what kind of porn you're into, us talking about relationship shit, us talking about like, you know, man woman shit, relationship shit, because it's not just man woman relationship shit. There's like all sorts of relationship shit that we've talked about in that. Um, it's a really good show, and I want to thank you for inspiring me to actually get my ass up and fucking do it. And so yeah, please tune into our Twitch channel. It's Liddy Bro. It's the this one in the comments. Hi, that's me.
I was gonna
It's
shout you
Liddy
out.
Bro.
We have it. We have this. But yeah, so
We have the
definitely follow
tools.
that and make sure you check that out. The album is dropping on the 20th, which
Tuesday.
is Tuesday.
Old
Yep.
school music industry day. That's the day that
Yeah.
that music used to drop on Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's it. And then T Pain explained to me that it's because you optimize your sales numbers by dropping on
Yep.
Friday. So everybody jumped to Friday.
Yep.
Nah, but for real though, thank you for coming through. I know we don't have a lot of time left. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
peep that volume 2, Cognac and Codeine. It's a good album. Honestly, like I liked it a lot. Like I really, really enjoy listening to it. It's got a different energy than the first one. So you should
Whole
peep it.
different energy than the first one, and that was the
I-
point. I kind of wanted to show the diversity in the music making.
So yeah, definitely thank you all for watching this. We really, really appreciate you being here because again, without all of you, it's like, I mean, it's fun, but it's way more fun when there's people here. You know, it's like
Big
a show at
facts.
that point.
Thank you to everybody who tunes in always every week. Thank you to the Behind That Suit family, right? So thank you to Bonnie. Thank you to Chris Chrome, uh, Holden. Thank you so much, right? Thank you to the EO Zoom family. Thank you
Yo, big
to
thanks to end of the week.
big thanks to Danny, sis. She's always here for us. She's always
Big
like
facts.
always here for us, like always. I love sis so much, and she just keeps Vice's energy alive at all times. And Vice, I mean, his energy is always alive, but I'm just saying, as his blood sister, she does an amazing job And big shouts to Zoo, big shouts to James, big shouts to Pro, big shouts to Vice
and
Levy and Dama and the whole team and
shout
HR,
out. Also,
and
just got to
shouts
shout
out
out
to
Nunzio
Ishmael
because Nunzio
Nunzio,
was definitely the first
our first
episode.
guest. First
So it's
guest
like
ever.
he gets
And there was a reason he
huge.
was the first guest. I did that on purpose.
But just to shout out everyone.
Also, sorry, one more shout out. Let me finish. Sorry, Holden. Shouts to Viva La Mesa. Anybody from La Mesa fam, anybody who tuned in period 2 to this whole thing. Thank you so much. I love you and appreciate you.
Big facts, but special thanks to end of the week for real. It changed my life, this whole series. It's not like a hyperbolic statement. It's what it is. You fuck around with the dub and your life changes. That's what they said. That's the testament of my existence. So
Global,
thank you.
I told you.
I believe it's EOW TV on everything. Make sure you tune in later on today. I think it's in about 30 minutes. They're doing I think it's the 1 year of the Zoom and everything. They're giving out the grant money. If you don't know about the Versus Project, it's one of the most incredible initiatives that I've personally seen come to life in all of these times. One of those, there's good in the world moments that should have got a lot more love than I mean, it should have been like, internet people going viral type shit. So make sure you tune into that as they give out the grants and they celebrate everything that's going to happen later on. And I'm just really grateful to, in some way be a part of all of this.
Same.
And so thank y'all for watching. Thank everybody for that. I'm going to start a little raid on this side, and then we're going to, make sure that y'all peep this in 30 minutes. And if you're watching this in the future, it's on /EOW, youtube.com/EOW TV. Go make sure to go watch that and look for it and all that good stuff. Peace, everybody.